For lesson 10, we're going to be talking about layers. You're going to create a portrait, an illustrated portrait of anyone that you want to create one for. For this tutorial, though, I am not going to actually do all the drawing while I'm on here. I went ahead and created it in advance. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me do all the pen work and pencil work. So I'm just going to kind of show you how to set up your layers and how to break down your project. And then you can choose the photo you want, so there's nothing to download for this module. I'm also going to show you a couple different examples. You can go a little bit easier or a little simpler with this project, or you can do something like I did where it's a little bit more complex. So let's go ahead and get started. Just follow along so you know how to get set up and how to get going. So we're going to flip it over here to Illustrator, and this is the image I'm going to use. So what you're going to do is start off with a blank document. So blank document. And you're going to place your image into it. So you'll go up to File, Place, find the image you want to use, and hit Place. And then you just line it up with this corner right here, and you're going to size it so that it fits on your paper. And then move it so that it fits on your paper. Okay, so once you have it in place and you have it sized the way you want it, I'm going to delete one of these since I have two of them. Okay, this layer here, you're just going to go ahead and lock it. That way, no matter what you're working on here, you can't do anything to this layer. You can't accidentally move it or shove it around. You can even name it background or image or whatever you want to name it. I usually name mine original. Okay, so now that you have this on here, you can draw on top of it. You can create more layers. One of the suggestions I also say is whenever you're done with this, a lot of times before you save it as a PDF file, go ahead and delete this layer. So you just click on it and drag it down here. For some reason, not always, but sometimes when you'll save a PDF, even if you close that original layer, it pops up kind of weird, just depending on which version of AI you're using, and it'll still show and not show part of your illustration and stuff. So I always suggest that you just go ahead and delete it. But if you want to keep it, just make sure whenever you're completely finished with the project, you're going to close it. You're then going to think about recreating this image and through not just layers, but what would be closest to you, what would be furthest away. So that's how I kind of broke this down. So I actually started with my face. So I went through and I illustrated over all of the face. And I can close this one too so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so all of these pieces are under a layer called face. So I created a new face. I did all of these layers are sub layers. They're all right here. And every time you create a new path or a new shape, it creates a new sub layer. Okay. You can then, so if you need it to, you could select them all and right click and group them together, or you can come right over here in your properties panel and group them together. And then they become like one thing that you can move around. Right now, mine is all separate pieces. So if I move something, I would just move the one piece, but it's a layer in itself. Okay. After I got done doing the face, I went ahead and I did the eyes. So I drew those into a layer, and you can see now I still have pretty many sublayers. You're going to notice that your sublayers add up really, really quick. You can reposition your layers. So if you're drawing and you realize that, your eyes should have been in place here, you can click on it and drag it down. Or if you're putting them in the wrong order and you want to move them and pull them up. So you can reorder these layers. You can also reorder your sublayers. So if you're we'll zoom in and take a closer look on her eyes. So with her eyes, I went simple and I used a shape tool just to get this background color for her actual iris of her eyes. And then I put the brown marks over the top of it. So if you're looking at them, here is the actual eyeball right here. And then these paths are above it in my panel. That way, they're covering it where it can be covered. If I switched them around and I like, oh, I actually wanted my eyeball to be up here higher, you can see that it now, whoops, I went too high, sorry. Let me go right here. There we go. Now you can see it covers what else is on there. So by moving these sub layers, you're going to be able to put them where they belong. Okay. And just like with the layers, if you wanted to, you can actually double click on these as well, and you could change the name of them. This comes in handy when you have something like this where I'm working on it where I have a left eye and a right eye. I could click on them and do right eye, left eye, and kind of be able to watch those. But you'll also see when I have something selected, so right now I have the face selected. Right here it says face. It has a red bar next to it, a little red square, because, and the bounding box is all red because that's the layer we're in. Now if I go to the eye, you're going to see that my selection turns green. Over here is green, over here is green, so you know it's somewhere in there. And then if you do a drop down, you'll see that your sublayer is also marked green. This comes in handy when you're working with this many sublayers. I can simply click on an area and say, oh, it's right there. Do the drop down, scroll down, and there is the path that I'm working on. So it comes in super handy to have these different colors. Now I have had students in the past that if you have any kind of problems with like color blindness, some of these can start looking the same. You can change these in your preferences. So it's under edit and preferences. You can change the color that those layers choose. Okay, so next I went ahead and I did my hair. I actually split the hair into two sections. I did the hair that kind of comes up and off the front of her head, and then I did the hair that would be more in the back of her head so that her face would like almost if she tucked it behind her ears or something. So the top of the hair is right here, and this is the top layer that I have going. And then for this one, I have more of the back of the hair. So you can see where it would come down. It's almost behind her face, silhouetting her face. So I put it behind her. Then where'd my body layer go? Oh, I have everything closed in here. Then I did my body. So I built up her shoulders, her neck, and everything. Her neck would be behind her chin. So I made sure that her neck is like way down here. Okay. And then if you want to do a background behind it, you can do an actual background. You can create, depending on what you want to do in your background, you can create another layer and call it background. In my case, I just wanted to use a gradient. So I wanted to go from like a darker red to a lighter red because that's kind of what the original image was. But I flipped mine. I made mine darker at the top and go lighter. You can do whatever you want in that area as well. So then my background looks like this. Okay, so this is what I kind of want you guys to create. And then, you know, I simply need to go back in and turn off that background layer. And there is my illustration. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to do. But like I said, mine is a little bit more detailed. If you want to go a little bit more simpler, you're welcome to do that. Mine did take a few hours. So you can do something more along these lines. So these two up here are a little bit more simple. These have some more choices of color in the face, which makes them look a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay. But if you have any questions or need any help with layers, go ahead and shoot me an email and I will answer it for you.